you know, sort of have been a senator for the past 18 months or so. And then a few months ago, people start saying, you know, I think Donald Trump may choose you as VP. And I'm like, no way. There's no way it's going to happen. And then like a couple months later, they start doing vetting, which is a totally bizarre experience. By the way, we could talk the whole time about vetting. So like, for example, lawyer comes to your house, asks you the most obtrusive questions, the most intrusive questions imaginable, right? And my wife's sitting there. We have 3 kids upstairs asleep. And at one point, the lawyer is like, well, I'm going to ask some uncomfortable questions. And I'm like, okay, you know, have at it. And he goes, do you have any secret family? And I'm like, are you serious? Do I have any secret family? Like, what do you mean? He said, well, sometimes people will have like, you know, another spouse and they'll have like other kids in a place like Alaska. I'm like, dude, I've never even been to Alaska. Of course I don't have a secret family.
You're getting grilled by the lawyer and your wife at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, by the way, if I did, I'm not going to admit it in front of my wife now. Like, it's one of those questions where if you've gotten to that point in your life and you're such a dishonest person that you have a secret family in Alaska, I think that most people would just, I assume, hide it at that point.
Yeah.
But, you know, no, I don't have a secret family in Alaska. And it's all these just weird questions they ask.
Wow.
Because they want to make sure that they're prepared for the news media firestorm. So it's a pretty wild experience.
How did Mr. Trump ask you to become VP?
So for a couple months, you sort of knew that you were on the short list, right? So they were, you know, asking about everything you'd ever said and asking about everybody you know. And, you know, do you have any family members that might say something negative? They're just doing kind of a basic, they call it vetting. And they're trying to find out everything. So I knew I was at least on the short list for a little while. But the Monday morning of the Republican National Convention, that's the first day of it, we fly to Milwaukee we have 3 little kids, 7, 4, and 2. So we fly to Milwaukee, and I have no idea what's going on. And the plane doesn't have Wi-Fi on it. So it's about an hour flight, and I land, and I've got like 350 messages, right? And one of them is from somebody on the Trump campaign and says, hey, you know, check your phone. Make sure you don't miss a call because a really important call's coming. So I'm like, oh shit, right? Either a good call or a bad call, but it's an important call. And about an hour later, I get another message from the same person who says, hey, you just missed a really important call. So I'm like, oh no. So I call Trump and I'm like, hey, sir, what's going on? He's like, JD, you missed a very important phone call. And now I'm going to have to pick somebody else. And I'm, you know, I like tense up and almost have a heart attack. And the crazy thing about it is my son, who's 7, is in the hotel room with me. And he's really into Pokemon cards right now. He's going through a Pokemon phase. Are you guys into Pokemon?
I was back in the day.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a big phase right now, I think, in general.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's really into it. So he's trying to talk to me about Pikachu. And I'm on the phone with Donald Trump. And I'm like, son, shut the hell up for 30 seconds about Pikachu. This is the most important phone call of my life. Please just let me take this phone call. And he doesn't care. He's like, who's, you know, he doesn't know what the President of the United States means. So Trump hears him and says, who is that? I'm like, that's my 7-year-old son. He's like, put him on speakerphone. And so I do. And Trump proceeds to read the statement that he's about to put out, making me his VP nominee. And he asked my son, he's like, what do you think about that? And my son's like, oh, it sounds pretty good, you know? And he goes, okay, fine. And he hangs up the phone and the statement goes out 5 minutes later, and then my whole life changed.